Hello students, in this last video of the chapter, we are going to discuss about the working capital. We have discussed this term before also, that working capital is a capital which is needed for a short-term basis. That means it is required for day-to-day working. So, working capital is the opposite of the fixed capital, whereas fixed capital is used in the long-term purpose. Working capital is used for the short-term purpose. Short-term purpose means day-to-day working of the activities. For that, working capital is required. There is a simple statement given which it explains. It refers to current assets over current liabilities. It refers to current assets over current liabilities. I hope you must have studied these terms in accountancy, current assets and current liabilities. Current assets means any such assets which can easily get converted into cash, right? It do not take much time. That's why I said it is for a shorter term duration. It don't take much time in getting converted into cash. So that is called a working capital. Now we are going to understand the factors which affect the requirement of the working capital with the help of these factors. I hope this way of writing will help you in understanding it in a better way. The first factor which we have is the nature of business. Now, nature of business, we have discussed this particular term while we were discussing fixed capital also, that if it is a trading company or if it is a service company, then definitely it requires less working capital, right? But if it is a manufacturing company, then it requires more working capital. Manufacturing company is a company which is collecting the raw materials from many vendors, assembling it. So here the stock maintenance can be one of the expenses that is required, that is done in manufacturing company, whereas inventory is not that big matter. Maintenance of stock is not that big matter with the trading company. That's why the requirement of the working capital is less. The next point which we have is length of operating cycle. Now, how long is the activity of the product taking place? That means how long is it taking to a raw material to get converted into a finished goods. If the procedure is long, then more working capital will be required, because the recovery of that product will be late. Because if a procedure is of 20 days, imagine after 20 days the product will get converted from raw material into finished goods, then still there will be some time taken by the product to be sold in the market, and then the profit will get generated. So the procedure is long, that's why the working capital requirement is more, so that when the profit will come in the organization after 20-25 days, till then how the company is going to survive. But if some raw material is getting converted into finished goods just in 5 days, so here the recovery of the profit, the coming of the profit into the organization is in a very short span. So the company don't need much working capital, as it can survive for 5 days on a minimum capital basis also. Next one is scale of operation. Now, what is the level at which the business has expanded itself? What is the size of the business? If the size and scale of the operation is really large and big, then the capital requirement is going to be more. I hope you all can see this term, it will be more. And if the operation cycle is, if the scale of operation is small, it is producing it on a smaller basis, definitely the working capital requirement is going to be less. Fourth point, we have business cycle fluctuation. Now, what is business cycle fluctuation? Business cycle fluctuation is that any product never gets in demand throughout in the season. It has its season. Like if we talk about summer clothes, the peak season for the summer clothes are right now in summers, whereas nobody really shows interest in buying summer clothes in winters. So that is the lean season, that's the recession time for those products. If we talk about ACs, cooler, refrigerator, these are certain products which are hyperly in demand during summers, but nobody is really willing to buy them in winters. So that is the business cycle which shows that it has up and down, the boom, peak and the downfall, that is recession. So if there is a boom, definitely there will be requirement of more working capital, because boom is a situation when there is more demands. So more demand means more production, more buying of raw materials, more supplies, more expenses are happening, and to meet up all those activities, all those expenses, definitely the company requires more working capital. But when there is a recession, nobody is demanding, no production activity is going on, then the working capital requirement by the firm is going to be very less. Seasonal factors, as I have just now explained you, that there are some products which has a seasonal factor. That means some products has its season. The way we right now we just discussed about the refrigerator, fridge, woolen clothes. In fact, the monsoon stuff, these all are seasonal things. So in season, when the demands are higher, the production rates are higher, everybody is demanding at that time. Obviously, there is a peak season. I hope you can see this term, peak season. The requirement of the working capital is more. And at the time of lean season, that is the downfall, nobody is demanding, no production activities going on, then the working capital requirement is less. In point number 6 and point number 7 is very easy to understand. I'll explain the two terms together. Is that when the company is giving the credit to somebody, that is credit allowed. If the company is giving the credit, giving the udhar, definitely it will receive the money after very long span. If the company has given the credit for suppose 15 to 20 days, the company will get its money after 20 days. How company is going to survive during that duration? So the working capital requirement is more. On the contrary, if the company is availing, somebody is giving credit to the company don't have to pay back immediately, then the requirement of the working capital will be less. Next one is point number 8, technology and production. Definitely if the machineries are there, technologies are there, it needs to get upgraded. If the production activities are happening, taking place, definitely there will be more requirement of the working capital. Point number 9 is explaining operating efficiency. If the organization's operating is performing very efficiently, very nicely, very perfectly, then there won't be much requirement of the working capital, because the inflow and outflow of the cash is very smooth, the liquidity is very smooth. But if there is less operating efficiency, if the organization is not performing, not running in a very smooth and proper manner, definitely to push its everyday activities, organization will be needing more working capital. So these were the 9 factors. The 10th factor is the availability of raw materials. If the availability of the raw materials collection, procurement is taking place very easily, if the resources are available very easily, then the organization do not need much working capital, because it is easily available. Whenever they want, they can buy and avail the raw materials, they can procure it, they can collect it. But on the contrary, if there is non-availability of the working capital, then it will be needing more working capital, because then they have to buy and keep the raw materials in stock safely at the time where there is scarcity and lackness in the market. In fact, the products may be little expensive due to the shortage, so the prices may get shoot up in that case. Next is level of competition. This is pretty understood. To fight in the market, definitely many activities needs to be done. Even extra activity has to be done. The company can go with aggressive sales marketing. The company can run many awareness campaigns, many type of advertisements. So in that case, when the competition level is high, the company may adopt modern technologies, it can upgrade the technologies, it can buy new machineries. All these activities again require capital. So if the level of competition is high, more working capital is required. If the level of competition is low, less working capital is required. Next we have inflation. Now what is inflation? Inflation is when the value of the money decreases and the prices of the product increases. So that is the inflation. And if the inflation rates are higher, more working capital is required. If there is less inflation in the economy, less working capital is required. So at the time of high, more working capital. At the time of low inflation, less working capital. Then the last point is growth. Again, we have discussed this point many times before, that if there is a growth opportunity with the company, definitely the company starts saving, starts keeping the funds itself, and in that case it will be needing higher working capital. So yes, if there is growth opportunity, if the company wants to expand, definitely for expansion, for growth, it needs more working capital, higher working capital. But if the company wants to continue with the same pace, with the same speed, it do not have much of growth plans in that time, if there is no opportunity, growth or plans further for the future, less or low working capital is required. I guess these factors and the way it has been written has made the concepts pretty clear to you all. That was all about the financing management chapter. See you all with the fresh chapter, with the fresh video next time. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you.